Magica De Spell is a villain of the Duckverse who was first introduced in 1961 in The Midas Touch by Barks. She's a sorceress whose goal is to steal the first dime Scrooge McDuck ever earned so she can melt it into an amulet that will usually make her rich. It's a little bit unclear sometimes. Not everyone seems to be able to agree exactly how it'll make her rich. It's common to say that it's by getting the Midas Touch and that was revealed in a Barks story, but honestly I think the mention of that in the story, the Midas Touch, was likely referring to a more figurative Midas Touch because the first one to mention it was Scrooge making fun of her for believing coins touched by him could potentially have magical properties, and that's not what we're talking about today. The point is that Magica De Spell is a fan favorite and is always very useful in duck stories where magical elements are used to spice things up. She's pretty much always driven by this one very targeted goal of wanting Scrooge McDuck's first dime, and she will stop at nothing to get it. Though sometimes that does make me wonder, is that dime really so important? I feel like when you can do magic, there's more you can achieve, you know? And I respect her for knowing exactly what she wants, but for this video, I wanted to take a closer look at particularly Barks' Magica De Spell and try to figure out exactly what she'd be capable of if her goal wasn't that specific. In short, I would like to figure out if and how Magica De Spell could easily take over the world. Barks wrote 9 stories total with Magica De Spell in them. The Midas Touch, 10-Cent Valentine, The Unsafe Safe, Raven Mad, Oddball Odyssey, For Old Time's Sake, Isle of Golden Geese, The Many Faces of Magica De Spell, and Rug Riders in the Sky. So I decided to go through all of these stories individually and take note of whichever abilities she's revealed to have so we can make a comprehensive spell sheet of sorts for her. First up we have the Midas Touch, the first Magica De Spell appearance ever. We are first of all introduced to her signature weapon, her puff bombs and foof bombs. The puff bombs blinding and disorienting people, and the foof bombs immobilizing them. She can also seemingly make people sleep with them. There's at least an example of her doing that with Huey, Dewey, and Louie, so it's possible that particular ability is limited to children based solely on evidence from this comic. It is, however, also shown that these bombs' impact can easily be prevented entirely by wearing really dark sunglasses. Aside from that, it's shown that she can change costumes really quickly, though it's not directly shown that this is through magical means. That's kinda all we actually see her doing, which doesn't seem like a lot, though looking closer, there is one implication of something else, particularly on the sign right outside of her shop. First of all, the fact that she has a magic shop at all implies that she knows how to produce and sell certain types of magic, and the sign itself specifies what kinds. It reads, spells cast, hexes hexed, evil eyes refueled, and of course, ogres for rent. Spells cast is pretty vague, but I suppose we know she has the ability to cast spells of some kind, even if we don't know which ones. Hexes hexed seems synonymous with the first one, but we are just unknowing outsiders to the wild world of sorcery, I suppose, so we'll take it. Evil eyes refueled is an interesting one because it sort of depends on what culture we're deriving that from, but overall it just means bad stuff to the people who receive it. Though it is specified that she can refuel it, so I suppose it's not proven she can actually cast an evil eye, she just at the very least knows how to charge it after it's already been cast. Then there's ogres for rent, which implies she knows how to capture and train ogres to rent them out, or alternatively that she's business partners with them in some capacity. Next up we've got 10-Cent Valentine, where it's finally confirmed that Magica can magically change costumes. Aside from that, it's also shown that she can perform mind control, at least in a limited way, using perfume smells, where she can entrance people into giving her information that they wouldn't otherwise give her. On the flip side, we also find out that her puff bombs can be blocked by kitchenware, so I guess that's a weakness there. Then there's the Unsafe Safe, which introduces a new power called a stun ray, and it's said that it's more stupefying than the evil eye, so the whole evil eye thing might be kind of irrelevant. The stun ray, as suggested, stupefies people, so they can't think clearly and occasionally give her information they wouldn't otherwise give her, much like with the whole perfume thing. Raven Mad is an interesting one, because here we see that she has the power of hypnosis, and that she can at the very least use this on ravens. She manages to hypnotize a raven to get the dime for her, but there's this one weird thing in it, because as the triplets and Donald are trying to figure out if they can use this ability on the raven for her plan to backfire, they don't seem to have any luck until they make Donald Duck cosplay as Magica De Spell, after which it seems to work flawlessly. So I guess her hypnosis ability is either related to her appearance, or it's some kind of after effect where the raven has been subconsciously trained to listen to the commands of anyone who vaguely resembles her. I have no conclusion for this, but let's just say that sometimes some kind of after effect like that happens and mark that as a weakness. In Oddball Odyssey, we go a step further with the whole hypnosis and mind control idea, because here it's shown that using, again, smells with something presented as a witch balm, Magica is able to control people by changing their very perception of reality. She manages to trick Scrooge and Donald into going to the cave of Ulysses and makes them believe that she is a direct descendant of Circe herself and that random knockoff gold-colored things are actually valuable. That's pretty powerful to someone who doesn't expect it, especially when it works on someone as gold-experienced as Scrooge. Huey, Dewey, and Louie only managed to outsmart her because they saw the effects the bomb had on Donald and Scrooge before they were affected by it. Other than that, the story also introduces a trope of sorts that's used in several Magica stories, where a specific wand is able to give her a power. She temporarily gets the actual wand of Circe that she can use to transform men, and anthropomorphic ducks I suppose, into beasts. The wand breaks at the end of it with the implication that this is the only one of its kind, so I don't think we can add that wand to her abilities, but we can say that having certain wands gives her a new ability she wouldn't have otherwise. Wands aren't just spell conductors, but a type of magic on their own. This also gives any magic performed using wands or potions the weakness that they can be destroyed. Things don't get really crazy until For Old Time's Sake, where we learn that she can command the fucking weather and meteors! In this, she creates a wand using various magical things she's found, and this wand can in fact command the weather and meteors. The way she decides to use this is to highly specifically target the money bin, which has an impossibly good natural disaster defense, holy shit. The wand did technically break at the end of the story, but she could still use it to command really small meteors, and we saw her create the wand, so I'm assuming it's not impossible for her to create it again. Also, one time when she commanded a meteor to the ground, it was full of different valuable materials that Scrooge took from it. This is like the most badass get-rich scheme. She can just command the valuable resources anywhere she wants. She'll be rich in no time if that's her motivation. Kind of related to that, she offhandedly mentions here that getting the dime will make her the owner of everything on Earth, which... that's way beyond the Midas touch or riches. What the fuck do you want, Magica? Another thing is that we get confirmation that she can magically put people to sleep and decide how long they're going to be out. Though she might need a wand for this, it's kind of unclear. Then we learn that she can straight up shapeshift pretty much flawlessly as long as she can see what the subject looks like. She measures their height and boom, she can just become them. Don't know if it changes her voice too, it's implied it does. Why did she only bother with costumes before if she can become other people? I guess maybe she likes being more in charge of the character design without having a reference, I can respect that. I Love Golden Geese shows that Magica can also use potions to perform certain types of magic. She uses 2 different numbered potions in the story. The first example of it is her potion number 6, which gives her power over the creatures of the deep if she pours it into the ocean, and it seems she also needs to utter the words hocus pocus shrimp cocktail colocus or a similar incantation for it to work. Or maybe she just does that because she thinks it sounds cool. Basically, this potion lets her control pretty much every creature in the ocean and bend them to her will. She uses this to thoroughly destroy a ship. Then there's her potion number 7, which gives her power over the creatures of the air if she throws it up in the air and says mumbo jumbo nyet to that jet or nyet to that boat, which gives her power over birds and probably other flying creatures, which she uses to destroy a jet plane. While no other potions are mentioned, it is, if she's numbering them chronologically, implied that there are at least 5 other potions we don't know about. And if they're just as powerful, there's a lot she can use those for. No, maybe they're just like ogre repellent or something and not particularly useful for purposes like this, which would explain why she hasn't used them in any of the stories. Oh, we also learned she can like stab people with magic. Good for her. Then we have the Many Faces of Magica De Spell, where Magica creates a hex juice. Is that different from a potion? I guess it is. Which, when you put a layer of it on someone's face, will make that face look like any other face it looks at. Basically, if she splashes it at a dog and the dog looks at her, its face looks exactly like her face. And if it looks at Donald Duck afterwards, its face will look like Donald Duck. In addition to this, we see her communicating directly with her pet raven, Ratface. It's shown that if she says a message to Ratface and tells him to pass it on, she can, through a domino effect of birds shouting in their respective bird languages, communicate that message to every bird in the world, which, for one, makes a really efficient and badass way to locate people you're looking for. She has eyes everywhere, that's certainly useful for world domination. We do also learn that magical formulas can be washed off with soap water, and that this information is in the Junior Woodchuck's guidebook, even though Magica apparently has no idea. I assume it's implied she figures it out off screen after the story, but that's still really relevant information to know as a sorceress and something that needs to be accounted for when we develop the plan. While it's apparently not common knowledge to a talented sorceress, we know that Huey, Dewey, Louie, Donald, and Scrooge are, since the story, aware of it. Then, in the final Barks Magica De Spell story, Rug Riders in the Sky, we learn more about her shapeshifting ability. It seems she can shapeshift into pretty much anything, even if she can't see it, including the giant legendary rock bird, which also makes it so that she can fly. I guess shapeshifting into something gives her the same abilities as whatever she is shapeshifted into. At least that works for a giant bird apparently, so that's already really fucking powerful. Not to mention that she does this in an effort to get her hands on a flying carpet, which seems unnecessary, but I mean the sorceress has her interests. So, to summarize her abilities, Magica De Spell can, as far as we can confirm, do the following. Use puff bombs and foof bombs to immobilize or disorient people, magically change costumes, make people sleep for a specified period of time, cast spells, such as the stun ray, I assume, hex hexes, refuel evil eyes, work with ogres, perform mind control through smells, similar effect to the stun ray, change people's perception of reality through smells, hypnotize ravens, command the fucking weather and meteors with a wand, command all creatures in the sky with potion number 6, command all creatures in the ocean with potion number 7, shapeshift into seemingly anything, including giant legendary birds, sap people, perform wacky face magic, and communicate with all birds on Earth through a domino effect. Her weaknesses, in turn, consist of dark sunglasses, kitchenware, cosplay, soap water, breaking her wands, the Junior Woodchuck's guidebook, and Huey, Dewey, and Louie because they're smart. So, it's time to develop our plan for world domination. It's clear by now that Magica is actually very fucking powerful. Her weaknesses are so far really specific, and her strengths are incredibly useful when utilized correctly, so we should be able to come up with something. First of all, get rid of Huey, Dewey, and Louie. They're the only reason literally all of the weaknesses mentioned were discovered by anyone, so if she wants to prevent them from finding more, she needs to get them out of the picture. I'm not suggesting murder, that's not her style, but either she needs to have a talk with them to start their villain arc, or she needs to properly immobilize them. So far, making them sleep has worked really well, so maybe a bit of a well-placed kidnapping followed by some of that specific sleep magic she's already used. She just needs to make them sleep for as long as she can and make sure they're at a location that's not immediately escapable. Also, while she's at it, she should absolutely take that pesky guidebook away from them and make sure some of that perfume or witch balm that makes you confused or changes your damn perception of reality is around the area they're kept in, to buy even more time. Trust me, these three are resourceful, they need as many distractions as freaking possible. Oh, and using the shapeshifting thing, I'm sure she could get some kind of messed up emotional manipulation in there by posing as the people they love, but this plan isn't about tormenting children, we're just trying to take over the world here, we're not that evil. If she gets the guidebook, and if it's somehow possible for her to read, I honestly doubt it, this thing breaks all laws of reality, but if it is, she should check it for more weaknesses her magic might have, because apparently it knows more than she does. Don't try to destroy it though. This thing seems fucking sentient sometimes, and frankly it kind of freaks me out, so just, hide it, lock it away, and hope it doesn't come for you. And then there's the issue of the two people who know of her weaknesses, Donald Duck and Scrooge McDuck. I'd recommend getting Donald out of the picture in a similar way to Huey, Dewey, and Louie. He'll probably be determined if he realizes they're missing, and he's a bit of a wild card when it comes to competence. Scrooge McDuck is a difficult case with his really powerful defense, so we can leave him be for a little. Second of all, we need to go ahead with the actual plan. We have a couple of options here, so let's see what we have. The first obvious choice would be going for the government. Which government? I don't know. Let's just start with puny Duckburg, where the ducks live, as Barks brilliantly put it. And well, she already literally replaced the mayor in one story, apparently that shit's easy. She just needs to do something similar to what she did last time, break in using some cool character design, make the mayor sleep, make sure to hide him, and just take his identity. A good strategy would be to do this at a time where he's in contact with some larger governmental branches, or where he's about to access some classified information. Regardless of when, she just needs to make sure to get her hands on as many state secrets and as much blackmailing material as possible for an extra failsafe in case anything goes wrong. Then she needs to work to ruin the mayor's reputation a little bit. Some bad wording here and there, a terrible local law suggestion, anything to heighten the people of Duckburg's mistrust in the government. I feel like with some of the ways the government is presented in the comics, it's probably kind of justified anyway. Now, I know what you're thinking. Just in case the shapeshifting thing doesn't last all that long or needs to recharge, lock the mayor in a room and make sure to feed him. He's honestly no threat. What's he gonna do? He's not those fucking hyper-competent triplets. He's just a mayor. And then Magica just needs to hide sometimes so she can change back into herself and back into the mayor and, rest her ability. The mayor probably has a family, though, that she at this point would have to put up a very elaborate ruse for, and they're most likely to pick up on the things that are wrong. So, I'd recommend sticking to one workday as the mayor and either use some witch balm on him while he's locked away if he can't sleep all the way through it to make him think nothing weird is going on, or blackmail him with some of the dirt she's probably found on him already. She can do most of the things I mentioned in some capacity in a fairly limited time frame if she times it right. It's even better if he has an important meeting that day, so she can seamlessly take on the identity of more powerful people and work her way up quickly enough that no one will realize a couple of important political figures were stunned and out of sight for a couple of minutes, including the politicians themselves. She could theoretically pull a bunch of strings this way and replace like the president in no time, but she hasn't taken over the entire world that way, and also gradually getting the chance to sign some papers isn't very Magica, and also probably kind of boring in the long run. She deserves something way more flashy and dramatic, and also something she can put her own name on. It's not fun to rule the United States or the world if you don't even get credit in the history books. So let's wind back a little bit. She should take on the mayor's identity for a little bit, find a few secrets, and stir up some mistrust in the government so it's a little easier to get followers through other means than them just fearing her for her immense power. Then, let the mayor go on with his day. She doesn't even need to lock him up, just make him have a nap and he probably won't realize anything happened. Oh, also, update on Huey, Dewey, and Louie, they've gotten out. She needs to have them under constant surveillance so she can be warned by birds screaming when it happens so she can go back and make them go to sleep. They're not allowed to be around for this part of the plan. Alternatively, if she trusts her discretion with the whole mayor replacement thing, she could kidnap them after that instead of before, though she needs to be really careful. These three aren't fucking around. Next up, let's use some of those awesome powers she has, shall we? She needs to start off by sending a message. Since she's already been targeting a highly specific capitalist, and since her motivation in this hypothetical isn't necessarily to become one, I think a good place to start would be to target the market. Use that potion number 7 and send those creatures of the deep to attack as many shipping containers of major companies as she can find. Maybe even block some canals. Is that all at this point? Shit, I'm dating this, aren't I? Just enough for people not to be able to ignore it and for the news stations to freak out about it. If she needs more, she can also add in her potion number 7 and make some birds carry planes around in funny ways for entertainment. I bet that'll stir up some popular conspiracy theories and will make pilots feel unsafe in the air, which might cause a strike or for someone to step in. The information will end up as public knowledge too, and news stations will have to cover it as well. Inevitably, some influential political figure is going to have to speak out about the whole thing publicly, and she needs to be nearby as it happens. If the place and time is obscured in any way, or if security is going to be a huge issue for whichever reason, though I honestly highly doubt they'll be prepared for what's coming up, she can either use some of that blackmail information she might have gained around the beginning, or she can just use her stun ray or perfume mind control. This is when we gradually stop caring about keeping her identity secret anyway. Then, as the speech is happening, and the influential person says something along the lines of "we've got everything under control," you know, the usual bullshit, we strike. This is when Magica needs to use the potential of her shapeshifting ability to turn into a giant legendary rock bird and fly into view, knocking the politician away. There'll be a hot second where people will probably be too confused to attack back, where she can momentarily go back to looking like herself. After this, she could proclaim that the government is lying to you, I'm the only one with the power to stop these threats looming above you, etc. Also, if anyone dares to attack her, she just needs to make sure she brought her meteor wand and she can attack back tenfold. Even if it is permanently broken, making it rain small meteors is still making it rain meteors. At this point, she needs to work fast, because Scrooge is really pissed Donald hasn't answered his calls to adventure and requests to get really small things for free or whatever, and might have resorted to actually going outside every once in a while. Luckily, Scrooge only ever reads yesterday's news when people throw them out, so she'll probably have a day to get things ready. And if he does notice shit going on outside, he'll probably be too busy working on a way to profit off of it after all those rapid stock crashes from the broken shipping containers. Ah shit, he might have had a reason to notice that part. I don't know. Maybe he'll just be kind of relieved she's interrupting speeches instead of his shipments. It'll be fine, I'm sure. Anyway, it's time to make more specific threats. She needs to say that she has eyes everywhere, and that she can curse people with funky face magic. There we go, she now has plenty of leverage. People all around the world must have realized at this point, or they will soon. We might still be in the 60s, so information doesn't travel as fast, but I feel like this is the type of thing that would be a priority. People are probably going to start targeting her with military force now, but she can control the weather and meteors, so she can freak them out pretty easily. It's a good time to bring out some of the ogres to fight for her and protect her too, and hell, she can defeat the army with some effective use of her potions. Just lift them away or poison their water with some mind control perfume. She can make demands now. She'll be put in contact with some leaders around the world, and she can slowly and steadily get rid of pants in the kitchen and dark sunglasses. She can pull some strings to make someone else richer than Scrooge, maybe using riches from the meteors, so he'll be powerless. With the entire world slowly getting on her side, it might be safe to let Huey, Dewey, and Louie, and by extension Donald, out, but put them under constant surveillance by birds, the military, or whichever other forces she has, so they'll pose as little of an issue as possible. She's the ruler of the world, everyone will do her bidding. She can also ban cosplay of herself, because who would dare to question her or imitate her? Who would dare to stop her when she can command the skies, the deep, the weather, and space like some kind of fucking god? Wait. There was one detail I decided to overlook during my research because it didn't seem relevant at the time, but In For Old Time's Sake, as Magica is talking about how she's creating the wand she uses to control the weather, she mentions that in the temples of Boreas, Juno, and the Furies, she scrounged secrets that tell her that those gods were more likely live sorcerers than figments of ancient dreams. Magica De Spell doesn't just have the abilities of a god. She functionally is a god. Forget gradually taking over governmental branches and becoming the sole dictator of everything in whichever way. She can think even bigger than that. Use a few birds to foretell her arrival, do a miracle or two without showing too much of herself, make strange weather patterns that show her presence clearly, command the skies and the deep until the lesser beings can no longer ignore it, can no longer come up with a logical explanation for it, so they start having faith in her word, whether she directly says it or not. Shape-shifting is a very godlike power. Every time she wants to do something cool, she can take the shape of something else to add to her sense of mystery. She can absolutely also keep targeting the dime. That shit's weird and specific as hell. People will more likely believe that it belongs to her and was stolen by a duck who was too greedy for his own good than that it's just some dime. Of course he's very determined to hold on to it when it used to belong to a goddess. Scrooge is going to become like a religious cautionary tale of the mere mortal who dared to do everything in his power to go against divine wishes. Tales will be told of the great goddess who commanded the deep as well as the skies and was angered by a mortal who took her artifact, the divine dime. She can exercise divine justice with her meteors, with the weather, and fill any temple people build for her with the perception-changing witch balm, so that even the most skeptical won't be able to resist her. What religion could stand a chance? Magica is a real goddess, and it cannot be disproven when it's objectively correct. Her followers are going to capture and harm Scrooge, and so severely outnumbered he won't be able to do a thing. The dime is going to be put on display, and it's told that one day the great goddess shall return to the earth and reclaim what is rightfully hers. The followers of the goddess seek to Mount Vesuvius, where rumor has it her presence still lingers. It's where she'll return to one day, and people go there to be closer to her. People listen to the birds who cried out on the day the goddess lost her mortal form and left the earth. And through the ancient rituals, her followers will be able to make Mount Vesuvius erupt once more, and Magica will burst from the flames and thank them for following her word. Yes, it's going to be perfect. The goddess needs our time. She, beyond anyone else, deserves to rule the world, rule morality, because of divine insight beyond simple mortal understanding. We must head to the money bin at once to get our hands on that dime. The billionaire doesn't deserve the ancient artifact, nor does he need it. Together, we'll acquire the true Midas touch, for while she has not granted our simple minds the knowledge of what the artifact does, we know that if we simply assist her on her mission, her word shall rule for centuries. But in the future, perhaps she'll be regarded as nothing but a figment of ancient dreams. Much like Boreas, Juno, and the Furies, she'll be reduced to nothing but an ancient tale. And while she shaped history, at what cost will that come? In the future, they won't know what greatness she brought to this world. Perhaps we never needed her in the first place. Maybe this is the message Magica meant to teach us all along. That sometimes seeking greatness beyond mortal comprehension, seeking to rule the world, it's not what we need to live our lives. No, that's not what life is about, because sometimes it's okay to disagree with a billionaire on one seemingly meaningless issue, because as long as we're driven, we'll find our calling. And the calling of the individual is more powerful than anything even the greatest ruler could create throughout centuries. Because what is our world? What is community without our individual drives to shape it? It's not about leaving behind a legacy that'll outlive us, because even the gods won't truly be remembered as they were. It's about enjoying what little time we have, and the small disputes we cannot settle, and the beautiful moments that dawn upon us in our hour of need. Thank you, Magica De Spell.